If I'm gonna play through a game, I like to just play through the original vanilla release just to kind of get that original intended vanilla experience. What was it like when that game first released? What was it like on that platform? Because sometimes I feel like when it comes to remasters and less so remakes, more or less just like, you know, like the actual remasters, I don't know, playing those games at higher frame rates and higher resolutions or quote unquote remastered graphics, there's a lot of times where the remastered graphics actually take away from the art style and kind of butcher it to an extent of where the game just feels different. Like, this is kind of a bad example because this was more or less a remake, but when you look at the Halo 1 Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition, that was more or less a remake, because a remaster is when you're literally just porting the exact same like textures to a new console or a new platform, and you're just like up-resing the original assets, not touching anything outside of up-resing and some like, you know, light tweaks here and there, but for the most part it's going to be the exact same experience. Whereas a remake, it would be more like Combat Evolved, where they're actually like remaking those assets or remaking certain parts of the game. But even still, there's a lot of examples where I look at Dark Souls Remastered, for example, where, you know, the original Dark Souls looks so much better in my opinion when it comes to lighting, the textures, this, that, or the other. Sure, the remaster version is at a higher resolution, but it completely butchered the art style in a couple of aspects. Like if you look at the Ornstein and Smo boss fight, when you watch that cutscene, when you watch the remaster version, they sort of just look like plastic figures standing there getting ready to fight the main character, whereas in the original they were standing there in all of their glory with like the light reflecting off of their armor. They looked, I don't know, there was something with the contrast of the colors and the color scheme, and it just looked absolutely wonderful. It looked absolutely perfect. But then again, in the remaster, you know, completely butchered it, and there was many examples of that happening in many different games. So just to get back on track here, that is why I typically just go for the vanilla versions of games, on top of, again, just wanting to get that original experience of like, hey, what was it like playing this game on day one when it released on its original hardware? That's just how I like to do things. When I look at GTA 5, I see a PS3 and 360 game, so that's still just where I go back to play it when it comes to replaying through the story. I've spoken my piece on resolutions and frame rates time and time again, and I'll do it time and time again until the day I die. Resolutions and frame rates do not matter, you know, as long as it's stable enough to play the game, then you're good. But even then, I don't even require a stable frame rate. I was literally just replaying Kirby's Adventure on the NES the other day, and I was having the time of my life. And if you played that game before, you know there's slowdown at literally like every 15 seconds throughout the game. Anytime there's more than like 2 or 3 characters on screen, the slowdown starts hitting. But I mean, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. I just like playing fun video games. So, you know, I'm fine playing the 720p, 30 FPS, sometimes down to 20 FPS version. I just like that experience, you know? I don't know. And there's also a thing with like remasters where sometimes the higher frame rates can make the game just feel not right. Like Resident Evil 4 at 60 FPS. It just doesn't feel right. I want to play it at 480p 30 FPS. It just feels right for that game. For PS1 games, I want to play them at 240p 20 to 30 FPS. There was some 60 FPS PS1 games, but for the most part it was like 30 FPS dropping down to 20 if it was like 3D. The games just feel right that way. Playing up at 60 just feels wrong.